live? What's good, great people? I am Eza Moon, and I have a special guest in the building today. Joining me shall be Pierre Laguerre. He is the CEO and founder of Fleeting. This man has some philanthropic efforts that I truly and honestly honor and appreciate. He's reaching into the community, and you guys, you know how I love a great conversation. So this one is going to be frank. This one is going to be awesome. And yeah, share this out with as many people that you know, and tell them that we're back. All right, let's get right on into it. I want to give a big shout out to my sponsor for this evening. That's Eric Justice. You guys definitely check her out. If you have a book, you have anything that you want brought to life, reach out to our sponsor for this evening. I'm going to go ahead and shoot this on out, and you make sure you guys do that too. Good evening.
Good evening, brother. How you feeling, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Man, I'm doing exceptionally well. I can't complain, but nobody gonna listen, so we got to get the job done.
Hey, look, I will listen to you complain. I promise I will. If you won't, we can take the entire time that we got right now, and I'll just as you lay it out, I will listen and I will give you solutions.
Well, thank you, man, because a lot of times, you know, some people say, you know what, I'm glad you have those problems, not me. So I really appreciate the fact that you say, hey, I'll listen. That means
Hey, but I mean it. You know, everybody needs at least one person in their life that'll be like, you know what? Let me just sit down and listen as you go through this. You know,
absolutely.
I want to say thank you again so much for joining me this evening. You know, you have, to me personally, from the videos that I've watched about you and from what I've read about you, you are someone who decides to persevere no matter what the obstacles are. And, you know, it's always an honor to sit with someone who has that same spirit and energy about themselves. You know, I know you are from Haiti and you immigrated to New York. I want to ask you, you know, really quickly about that transition for yourself and, you know, maybe how some of those events played into the decision-making you had.
No, absolutely. No, for sure, for sure. By the way, thank you for what you're doing as well, highlighting those stories. I think is very important because one thing I see not to deviate from the question is that when we look at social media, the things that are being promoted, it does not reflect who we are as a people, right? And I get mad sometimes seeing our women being naked on social media, seeing the things that we post on social media, and it bothers me. So you doing this, actually showing the right side, the bright side of what we're doing, really appreciate that. But yeah, let's get straight to the answer. So yeah, for me, coming from Haiti, moving to America was a very hard transition to say, because first it was more like cultural shock, right? And I always say this, whoever is the chief marketing officer of America, they're doing a great job promoting America across the world. They do a great job because when you live in Haiti, right, people tend to call Haiti one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere, which is far. Like, Haiti is not the poorest country, right? This is what they're saying. But coming from Haiti and seeing the culture of what we see in the United States, and then when you actually get into this country yourself and you see the gang culture, you see the poverty level, you see the drug issue in America. So it was more like cultural shocking for me because that was not the America that I fell in love with when I was a kid in Haiti. That was not the America that I was like, wait, hold up. I want to become a neurologist in that country. You know, I can't wait to get there. I wanted to go to Harvard University. So coming over here, and to make matters worse, I landed in one of the worst neighborhoods in Brooklyn at the time, which is East Flatbush, right? In the early 90s, East Flatbush was no joke, right? So I think for me, it was like that transition. And plus, I didn't speak no English at all, not an ounce of English. So just imagine that barrier, not speaking English, not familiar with the culture. And the gang culture was so crazy. Man, I remember getting my butt beaten just simply because I was wearing the wrong color, didn't know that I was in the wrong neighborhood, right? Just going into school. So that transition, although it was hard, but I believe that transition was preparing me for where I am today. So I can say for sure that I embraced that experience, as bad as it was, but it was an experience that I should definitely embrace and definitely share with my children. And they laugh at me when I tell my daughter about it.
Oh man, you know, funny enough, I'm one first generation Nigerians. My father, immigrated here, and so did my mother from Nigeria, and you know, taking in their experiences and as well as your own, it just shows me that, you know, those transitions will either, you know, hinder you and cause for you to say, you know, I'm going to delve within myself and you know, stay away from everything, or it'll cause you to say, you know what, no, I'm going to persevere and I'm going to create something. I'm going to create my dream, no matter, you know, what America looks like or how it treats me, you know. To see that for yourself, you've done a lot, you know, and I want to get into, you know, I want to transition. Let's move into, you know, the trucking industry, you know, industry that you know, Fleeting. How did that come about? You know, what I know you've gotten that question over and over and over and over again. But you know, I feel as if, you know, there's always a way that the story could be told to where, you know, some more diamonds can be pulled from it. So talk to us about Fleeting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what Fleeting is, we call ourselves a mobile platform that connects CDL truck drivers with trucking companies. So we give them greater control of their schedule and greater control of their earning. In other words, if you're building a tech company, you know, you got to be the something of something. Like you got to be the Uber of something. So for us, we like to say we're like the Airbnb of trucking, right? Where we allow people to own a fleet of trucks, and our software provide the drivers, the freight, the compliance, the back office, and the truck owners make about $5,000 per month. But the reality is that's a way for us to really tackle the driver shortage problem. We understand that drivers are constantly looking for flexibility. Truckers are constantly looking for, you know, greater control of their earnings. So again, by allowing the public to purchase trucks and put it on our platform, these trucks serve as inventory. So a driver can come onto the platform and say, okay, well, truck 38 is available. I only want to work Monday to Tuesday, right? Or I only want to work from Thursday to Sunday. So that way the drivers have like a gig-like model into trucking where they're not operating on the traditional realm where drivers are spending 30 to 60 days on the road and not seeing their family. So this model kind of gives them the ability to pick and choose what schedule that works for them. Now, how did that Fleeting get started? So it goes right back to coming into to the U.S. at the age of 15. And one thing that I realized very early on, I said, man, living in that community, seeing how young men was losing their lives to street violence, young women being sprung out on drugs. And I quickly realized, I said, man, there's no way I'm going to graduate alive to become a neurologist in this community, right? And the fear of becoming a statistic, the fear of becoming a product of my environment, I was always thinking, what is it that I can do to escape? And believe it or not, my escape became trucking. I said, well, maybe I should just get my CDL and just drive a truck and just turn my back on this community. Now, as much as I said that I didn't want to be a statistic, I didn't want to become a product of my environment, I think I've already became part of that statistic, number one. And I've already became a product of my environment because I was hanging with the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the murderers. You know, those were the people that was close to me. But also it was through hanging with them that I faced, at one point in my life, I realized that I was at the middle of the crossroad, right? And there was only two exit options, 6 feet deep or 25 years to life. And that forces me to think and say, okay, well, what am I going to do here? I lost about, 3 to 4 friends in one summer, like literally like 3 months, right? And that really had me say, okay, well, I need to find a way to get the hell up out of here. I did go to college and study electrical engineering, but I did end up dropping out and get my CDL and became a truck driver. I worked for XPO Logistics, which is one of the largest 3PL/trucking companies that exist today. Worked for them for about 3 years. Then I went to work for Performance Food Group. Performance Food Group, which is a food company, started doing local deliveries to schools, restaurants, and hospitals. And unfortunately, I started doing deliveries in the same college that I was going to, right? And I was somewhat ashamed and embarrassed about that experience. And I didn't want to be seen. I was always trying to rush, get in and get out. And one day I ran into my my math professor. I remember this day. And he said, Pierre, what's the matter, man? Like, why are you rushing? Why are you running? I said, dude, look at me. I dropped out of college. Here I am with a hand truck bringing Poland Spring waters in here. I don't want my friends to think I'm a loser. I don't want my peers to look at me like a nobody. He looked at me and smirked. He said, well, how much you making a year, Pierre? And at the time, I was doing $93K a year as a driver. And he looked and said, Pierre, look, half of these kids are going to graduate and they're not going to see $93K per year. He said, I need you to own it, be prideful, and be the best trucker you can be. This is America. Now, I know it sounds so cheesy, right? But believe it or not, that message really, really resonated with me. A year later, I purchased my own truck and became an owner-operator, started learning more about the business. I quickly realized how inefficient the industry was. There's no ecosystem that really teaches truckers how to understand their unit economics, how to understand their stakeholders, how to understand their partners, how to understand their pain points. And Wagner College at the time had a course for about a year for supply chain logistics, and applied for that course and did well at it. And my takeaway from that was it kind of showed me trucking on a macro level, right? But I was much more eager to learn trucking on a micro level, on a day-to-day, boots on the ground operation. And I also went to become a freight broker. Now, in freight broker school, now again, to all the freight brokers out there, and I'm not trying to vilify brokers, but this is the reality. In freight broker school, I realized how brokers take advantage of truckers' ignorance in a sense, right? And I said, man, there's no way I could go out there and launch a brokerage firm because I don't want to go out there and take advantage of truckers. I'm a truck driver. My divorce was because I was always on the road, never had time for my family. And I know how that affected me. So I didn't want to launch a brokerage firm. But before I was able to really do anything, I think I got into a car accident and lost my truck. Found myself going through a divorce. I had to move back to Brooklyn, and things got really bad. Yeah. But I read one book called What the CEO Wants You to Know. And I think every entrepreneur should read that book. And shout out to my cousin too, Spliff. He's very one of the person that I looked up to very early. He used to work at Dev Jam, very smart brother, man. And he gave me that book because he was working at an accounting company. And I read that book, man, and the takeaway from that book was volume and profit margin. And it was a very interesting book because my takeaway was that book shows you that there is no different with the person that's selling fruits on the corner, whether it's apples, bananas, and oranges, compared to Walmart. Same business, it's just that one is operating at scale, one is operating as a small business. So that book had me thinking. I said, well, I could do this too, because all I need is volume and I need to understand my margin. So I started thinking, I said, well, maybe I could start selling zippers and buttons and go to China and buy them in bulk and then come back to the US and sell them. But here I am with a big dream. My car just got repo. I'm walking everywhere in New York. I don't have $1 in my pocket. Like literally, I'm talking about broke as a joke. But one thing I saw was all the glass from the barbershop, the beauty salons, the restaurants, and I was, doing the math in my head again, the same thing, volume and profit margin. I said, well, who are cleaning those glass? I said, if I could get 100 stores and I charge them $10 per glass, I said, hey, I could make $1,000 a week and get back on my feet. So I went and told a friend about it. I said, hey, man, I'm thinking about starting this window cleaning business. He looked at me and laughed. He was like, man, people are going to think you a crackhead. I said, why you say that? He said, well, look around. There's nothing but crackheads cleaning windows, right? I said, you do have a point. I said, well, we look clean, but we don't have a dime to show for it. I said, I'd rather look like a crackhead where I could feed my child as opposed to looking this clean and I can't do anything with it. He said, well, if you get 50 stores, I'll do it with you. Man, look, I make a long story short, I took him on his offer, woke up the next day, started knocking on every stores down in Brooklyn, New York. And, the same day I had about 72 stores agree for me to clean their windows, borrowed $80 from my little sister. And I was off to the races, man. I was cleaning windows. And in 3 months, man, we did about almost $60K in revenue. And I took that money. They launched a staffing agency, which I grew to $2.5 million in revenue under 18 months. And then took that proceed and started the trucking company, started with 3 trucks and scaled to 26 trucks. And did also 1.7 million in revenue in the first year. Now, I can stop right here, but there's so much more in the story. I know you probably have some questions, but I'll stop right here and kind of lead to exactly how I got to Fleeting.
I'm sorry, I got to give you a round of applause for that. I love the evolution and how that scaled upwards. But the thing is, within there, right, it took time. I wonder for you, and I know I do have more questions in regards to other things, but I just wonder for you, really quickly, in those time periods where it looked its dark, how did you pull yourself through?
Man, so that is a good question, right? So one thing I've learned is that, and I forgot who was the famous, there's a motivational speaker that said this. He said, hey, look, whenever you feel like you're falling, right, don't fall on your face. Make sure you fall on your back, because if you fall on your back, you can always look up. And if you can look up, you can always pull yourself up. So that was one thing that really, really resonated with me, just by knowing that little gem alone really meant a lot. But I think also it was the resilience of being born and raised in Haiti, right? The things that I've seen in Haiti, like, to be honest with you, I don't want to sit here and say, hey, look, we were living in poverty in Haiti, although there was poverty around me, but we live a comfortable life. We live a middle income life in Haiti. But we still see a lot of things that was very hard, just really seeing your friends, seeing people that live in your community, what they have to experience. And I think it was just that resilient spirit that showed me, that said, hey, look, man, you're not down until you're really down, until you're no longer breathing. This is it. As long as you have breath in your lungs, as long as you got, you got your legs and you got your arms and you can walk, you could definitely put another swing. So I think that really kind of changed my mindset. And also, too, let's be for real. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in East Flatbush. You had no choice but to be tough in those communities, right? You had tough skin, because around them time, if you didn't know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, you was a nobody, right? So I think for me, I was able to say, not in a proud way, but I was able to kind of really create a name for myself in the street. So I was kind of feared, but loved, respect. So it was like a little bit in between. So I think that experience in the community have shaped me for where I am today, to kind of help me deal with those challenges on my professional journey.
I love that in regards to, because I kind of wonder, how do you advise someone, especially those that look like us, that are coming up, in regards to in regards to those who are in the same situations as yourself, you know, when they were 15 and they were coming to America. But before we get into that, I definitely want to, you know, transition into, you know, there's a quote that I have. We want to change the stigma of working in transportation logistics, make it more appealing to bring more millennials, LGBTQ communities, and other marginalized people to understand how important trucking is and that they can make a lot of money on their own terms. I wonder for you, you know, that you are the wise person that said that. So I was wondering for you, what is the parts of your strategy for getting this done?
So the strategy, I would say for sure, and to go and just to add a little bit about the question that you asked previously was, I think it's exposure, right? And a lot of times we're not able to build successful businesses, or we don't have access to certain room or access to capital or access to certain mentorship just simply because of lack of exposure, right? Because when I grew up with the community that I grew up in, like I said, if you ask me right now to name 15 CRIP members, I could tell you exactly who they are, name and everything. You ask me to name 15, 20 Bloods, I could tell you exactly. But ask me to say, hey, give me 3 lawyers in your community, I don't have none. Give me 3 doctors in your community, I don't have one. Give me 3 investors in your community, I don't have one. So I think the exposure for me was what really kind of helped me to be able to see trucking from what it is. Because when I got my CDL and became a truck driver, I didn't say I'm just going to get a CDL to become a truck driver. The goal was I wanted to become a fleet owner. I wanted to own 300 trucks. And I realized the best way for me to get to that journey was by applying to get my CDL so I could understand the industry. So being a driver kind of exposed me to the opportunity that exists in that space. So if anybody in those communities, you know, are looking for a change. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be trucking. It could just be anything. What I would say is, man, look, do the work, man. Put yourself out there. A lot of times we don't do it simply because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of naysayers. We're afraid of what people are going to say. And what I would say to them, just like Steve Harvey say, look, man, just jump off the building and just pray to God. By the time you hit the ground, you're going to grow some wings. And that proven to be true in my own experience myself is that the fact that I had a fearless mentality from growing up in that community, the fact that I had that I don't give up mentality. I said, whatever is in my way, I'm going to overcome it. So I think, again, it starts right here. It starts in the mindset. So if people really can understand how important it is to change our perceptions, to change our mindset around certain things, I think those people in those communities are the most qualified people to become entrepreneurs. If you take any young man from a real dangerous community, whether he's gangbanging, whether he's slinging drugs, right? Those people are the most equipped entrepreneurs because they understand risk, but unfortunately they're not taking the right risk. If you can stay on the corner and risk your life and risk your freedom, man, trust me, you could give a business a shot and risk everything you have in it.
Absolutely. You know, I want to talk about community, right? Because you mentioned it previously about being able to name these many Bloods, but talk to us about, you know, the power of having a good community around you and what steps people can take to become a change maker, you know, and put ourselves, you know, in those positions of where, hey, you know, I am that doctor that you can name. I am that investor that you can name.
Yes, no, absolutely. Community is very powerful, right? And a lot of times, even in our communities, we don't even have the real community. What is really community? Community is pretty much people that's from the same ecosystem that's looking out for the betterment of each other, right? So same thing in Haiti. In Haiti, if you do so, I'm pretty sure you probably have the same thing in Africa. When you do something bad, right? Before your mom and your dad get to you, the entire community done whip your butt. Everybody done whip. So that was community because it kind of puts you in a position to be accountable for your own actions, right? So community allowed everybody in those communities to be accountable for their action and hold each other accountable. So the power of community, for me, I've realized is that you can create so much more by having a community. Like they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a community, go with a team, go with a group of people. So I think community, again, we have to really look at it. It's not to say, well, how can I abstract value out of this community? I think much more so is how can we add values into our own community? So I think it's just a matter of, hey, look, what does our communities look like? What is it that our communities are lacking? And what it is that we can do to help solving those problems? But the challenge is bigger than that because a lot of us don't even know that we are lacking in our communities simply because we never left our own communities to see what other communities look like. So for me, communities, I would say definitely it's a big part of my journey. As a matter of fact, part of the story was in 2020, I became the first black man to raise over $1 million on a crowdfunding platform backed by SEC and Republic, right? And that was through power of community. That's everybody coming together for one common cause to say, you know what you're building here, not only that it can solve for your family, but it can solve for the communities that you live in. It can solve for other communities. So I think when we talk about the power of community, it's not simply just the communities that we live in. It's a matter of creating these ecosystems, creating these buckets. And this is why I said black men, successful entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs as black men, we have no reason to adapt to an imperialistic mindset or a capitalistic mindset. Because the minute we do that, we lose the entire battle. And this is exactly why one of us make money. The first thing is say, hey, look, we got to leave the hood, right? And I'm totally okay with leaving the hood. I don't believe in, making all this money, changing yourself to stay in the same place. I definitely agree on, hey, you got to actually leave that place. But however, coming back and adding those values to that community is paramount to the betterment of our people. So I can't be selfish. The people that came before me wasn't selfish, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. So I think this is where I felt like this is a moral obligation. This is a moral duty for me to really talk about the power of community and bring that back into our conversation.
See, that's the thing. What you said right there is, you said so many things that were amazing to me, that resonate with me as well. And honestly, my next question was going to be, what kept you from being selfish? And, I think you highlighted by saying, hey, the people before me weren't selfish, right? I want, so in knowing this, why direct, because you have philanthropic efforts, right?
Yep.
Why put your effort there? I know, of course, you're not a selfish person, and the people before you weren't as well. But what is the why for you? What exactly is it that says, let me actually do something to help change these people's lives?
Man, that's a great question. And that answer, man, is a very, very harsh experience for me to say now, why community? And to be very honest with you, I was never the community guy, right? So when I was running those two companies, a staffing agency and a trucking company myself, I had a son that was born in 2017, and he was born with Down syndrome. And that really affected me emotionally, financially, physically, you name it. I got to a point where I didn't care about trucks. I didn't care about my customers. I didn't care about nothing but my son staying alive. And my son, when they told me that he had to go through multiple open heart surgery, like I said, it was very hard. It was a hard pill for me to swallow. But while he was into, first surgery, things was getting bad. Second surgery, things was getting worse. Third surgery, look, my business was literally falling apart. And one thing I've learned through that experience was the power of the tongue. We have the ability to speak life or death into our own situation. And that night I was just so fed up. I remember I got a call from the hospital, NYU, and they said, hey, there's an emergency bleeding here. We need you to come in. And I was just so fed up. And at the time, I think I was that was just 4 years ago. I'm 38 now, so that was 34. I never disrespected my mother, right? And my mother said, look, son, just pray about it. Everything is going to be okay. God got this. I said, man, please don't tell me anything about God. I said, for all I care, he could send somebody to just blow my head open and take me out my misery. I said this at 8 p.m. By 1 in the morning, I was in the hospital with my skull cracked open from an attempt carjacking robbery, right? So now I'm fighting for my life. And when I finally gained some consciousness, I was thinking, now, if I say I didn't want revenge, I'll be lying. If I said I didn't want blood, I'll be lying, right? But it was also through that pain that I said to myself, I said, okay, well, if I pick up a gun right now and go open up an entourage and, for retaliation, one, what am I going to solve? And I said, again, two, I'm going to run the risk of getting killed myself, or I'm going to kill another brother that looked like me. And then three, now my children are going to grow up without a father in their life. And then boom, before you know it, that same vicious cycle of violence continues. And that's when I got on my knees and I said, God, you know what? I would never doubt you. I would never say what I said again. So I said, hey, look, if you get me out this hospital alive and I'm not walking, I'm not on a wheelchair, and I'm not eating through a straw, not only will I build another company and add technology to solve the supply chain logistic issues, but I want to create an ecosystem. I want to create an academy to where I go back and teach those young men how to become entrepreneurs in trucking, simply because what if that brother would have came up to me and said, man, this is a nice chain, this is a nice Rolex watch, a nice car. What do you do for a living? 9 out of 10, I would have told him, hey, man, I own a trucking company. Do you want to get your CDL? I can show you how to become a trucker and become a fleet owner. But that's when I realized those communities where we come from, we're not exposed. We don't know. We never been exposed to what success looked like. So the minute we see somebody that remotely look like success, We want to kill him and take it from him. And for me, that's where my mission came from. I said, you know what? It's appalling that trucking is short 1 million truck drivers. It's appalling that this is an $800 billion industry. Nobody is talking about it. Meanwhile, we have communities of young men and young women, especially look like me, that are looking for the next opportunities that don't know which way to turn. I said, I have to find a way to solve this. So this is when I said, God, just give me the strength and give me the will. I want to solve this problem to make sure that another brother never experienced the type of pain that I've experienced, because I still deal with trauma. I have a titanium plate on my forehead, and I'm not the forgiving guy. Like, I probably would have been the guy that really probably would have grabbed the gun and go for retaliation. But I think God had a bigger purpose for me. And by being able to speak to him and being vulnerable and say, hey, look, I would never do this anymore, and I don't know what to do. And look where I'm at now. I came out the hospital, hit the ground running. Like I said, I've raised $1 million on the crowdfunding platform and raised an additional $2 million from other investors like Chameleonaire, Kyrie Irving.
Right.
We launched our company in 2019, and to date, we already surpassed over $8 million in revenue and still growing. 91% of our employees are returning citizens, meaning drivers, brothers that was formerly incarcerated. So for me, I felt like, that needed to happen in order for me to, one, humble myself. Because, yeah, when I was running those 2 other businesses, I was flashy. I was wearing jewelries, driving in nice cars, right? And I think that it was a humbling moment for me, but also it was a moment for me to realize that, hey, look, just because you making a few $100,000 or a few $1 million, don't forget where you came from. There's people out there that have never been exposed to the opportunity you have been exposed. And now you've been gifted with this opportunity. Now it is your job to bring them same opportunity to see your community. So to answer your question, that experience, it was a violent experience that had me really look within to say, you know what, instead of going to kill another brother, how can I actually prevent this from happening to another brother? So that's the mission.
Man, you are an inspiration. You are inspiration, man. I mean, and I thank God that you are sitting here in front of me right now. It is, I said this at the beginning, and I emphasize it's an absolute honor to be speaking with you. Finding lights like you within the community is amazing, because yes, you could have, and honestly speaking, you and I are similar.
God forgives, right? But hey, look.
I started thinking in my head, man, Rick Ross had got a CD called "God Forgives, I Don't."
That's right.
But no, sincerely speaking, though, this is awesome to see what you can do when you utilize a mindset of, what, I will overcome and I will teach versus I will, go back for vengeance. I want to get into the goal of this show, why I do this, and that is philanthropy. Garnering support from the onlookers and putting it towards a charity or nonprofit that you care about. What charity or nonprofit would you like to highlight today? Just give a shout out to, and why is the cause that it faces so important to you?
Yes, so there's a company, well, it's not necessarily a charity group, but I will call them is the 5 Ventures. And I want to give them a big shout out, because what the 5 Ventures did for me was, so what the 5 Venture is pretty much just like this ecosystem, this network that helped formerly incarcerated men and women kind of like, get back into society, kind of, help them, with employment, kind of helping them with housing. So I definitely want to give a shout out to them. But the main reason I want to give a shout out to them was 2019, they invited me to a tour in prison, right? To go speak to the brothers that was incarcerated, that was getting ready to get released. And man, that experience, man, just changed my life. Like, as tough as I could be sometime, man, I was boo-boo hollering and crying in that prison, because again, what I've learned, and I think it's a good experience, what we've learned was those people that are incarcerated, they ain't no different from you and I. The only difference is some of them got caught. Let me ask you this. How many times went to a party, drink, we know we're not supposed to drive, right? But we still drive home, but we didn't get arrested. But unfortunately, some people got arrested, and those people are facing that. Now, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying, hey, look, you should go out there and do it, but I'm just showing that sometimes how we might be lucky enough to not get caught, but somebody else get caught. Now they're part of the system, they're incarcerated, they can see their family. So that experience really kind of showed me was that there is no different with anybody being incarcerated. And I'm not talking about the monsters, I'm not talking about the rapists, right? So it's like you realize that those people are human beings as well. We make mistakes, and we want to be able to kind of find a place where we can be forgiven for our mistakes, not cast us as an outcast or an outsider or ex-con. So I think that experience, man, going in there showed me that these people are just regular human beings that unfortunately made a bad decision and they just happen to get caught. Just like a lot of us, we make bad decisions, we just didn't get caught. So it was it was a real dear experience to me, man. Like I held that experience to my heart. And this is why, again, my mission, Pierre's Academy, is I have a focus on the formerly incarcerated men and women. There's about 600,000 men and women that are free annually. And unfortunately, there is no ecosystem really out there that's helping these individuals with housing, with employment. But at the same token, we're talking about there's a million truck driver shortage, right? Yeah. So how can I actually bridge that gap? By creating curriculum, by giving them the tools, the knowledge, the expertise, the confidence that they need in order to build successful businesses in trucking. Simply because why? Trucking took me from that community to be where I am today. It changed my entire trajectory, and I believe it can do so for millions of others. So that's definitely an organization that I want to give a shout out to. But I'm starting my own organization called Leave the Street Alone. We're working, it's a work in progress, but that's definitely something that I need every last one, every young black man, black woman, entrepreneurs. I need everybody beyond that mission, simply because that mission is showing our brothers and sisters there's more to this life than the street. There's more to this, get rich overnight thing. There's ways that we can actually change our perception. We can change our biology and eventually change our realities.
Amen. Amen. Oh man, that's a bar right there. We definitely want to make sure that we want to definitely make sure that if you guys are just tuning in, please make sure that you run this entire thing back. I'm definitely going to be uploading this one onto our Instagram, but also onto the YouTube as well. The charity that we are going to be supporting is the 5 Ventures. Make sure you guys, if whatever way in which you guys can donate time, energy, or effort, please make sure you guys reach out to them. I will be tagging them to this video as well. And also, before we close out, we like to close with words of wisdom for the next generation. Right? That's a tradition that we have here.
Yep.
We've covered so many things, but one of the things that I said I want to save for later, because I want to change the target audience for my words of wisdom to reflect, people. And I say this with, like yourself and myself, right? Who have that fire and that passion, but don't know how to direct it in the right way, and they're at that age, that pivotal age of that 15 to 17. What words of wisdom would you have for that person?
Man, word of wisdom, age of 15. Man, definitely. I was 15 too, right? This is the age where we think we know it all. Exactly. I would say, man, slow down. Like, you understand, your parents are right. Believe it or not, your parents, your mom, your dad. But unfortunately, I know a lot of, when we talk about our communities, a lot of those young men and young women, they don't have those parents, right? So what I would definitely say to them is, they really have to, you can't look at yourself for your current situation. You have to look at yourself way above it. Like, even me. When I was in Haiti, I never looked at myself as a Haitian living in Haiti. I always saw myself as a neurologist living in Haiti. I just didn't get there yet, right? So even same when I was living in Brooklyn, although it could be a hood sometime, I never saw myself as a hoodlum. I saw myself as a fleet owner, as a CEO, as a successful CEO. So the message I would give to them is, do not allow today to dictate who you are. Like, think of who you want to become. And the more you think about that person, the more you'll realize the universe is going to open up doors to allow you to become that person. So I would say is, think of yourself highly, be mindful, learn how to have empathy, learn how to, listen to your elders. And most importantly, I would say there's 3 A's that I think every young man should really adapt to is attitude, aptitude, and altitude, right? And all those 3 A's go together. By having the right attitude is how you react to the things that are happening around you, right? So again, we're talking about those young men that live in those communities. Your attitude is how you react to that. Your aptitude is your ability to learn from those experiences. It's your ability to learn a new skill, right? And the ability to adapt that new skill. Now, if you understand what I just said again, if you have the right attitude and you have the right aptitude, it will automatically change your altitude, which is your trajectory, right? So I think that's exactly what I want to leave these young men with is like, hey, look, attitude is very important. Do not look down on self. Because you live in that community, you are not that community in a sense. You are bigger than that. You have to learn how to rise above it and provide value for other people coming after you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is an absolute honor to speak with you, Pierre. I hope this isn't the last time we speak. I honestly would love to interview you again in the future. But what is next for you? What is coming up on the agenda for yourself?
Yeah, so what's next right now? So as we know, we are still a seed company. We are looking to do a Series A early next year. We're looking to about to raise maybe $20 million so we can actually really scale up all across the country. But the next thing that we are working on right now, which is the immediate thing, is I just launched something called Pierre's Academy. And what Pierre's Academy is pretty much is an online course that's teaching young men and young women how to become dispatchers in trucking, which is the very first course. A lot of time people have this big misconception about trucking. In order for you to get into the industry, you have to become a truck driver or you have to own a truck, right? But the reality is there's hundreds of thousands of truck drivers out there struggling to find good paying freight, to find somebody that can negotiate on their behalf. So Pierre's Academy is there to help people understand that they can build a six-figure business at home where they can help truck drivers negotiate with freight brokers and find good paying load. Think about somebody that just came home from jail, right? They're probably on parole. They can't go out, drive cross country, but they can launch a dispatching business at home, right? Think about it. If somebody's spouse, their husband is a truck driver and they're at home, they can launch a dispatching business at home. So dispatching, again, the reason I created the academy is that it's part of my promise to God when I was in a hospital, but also I've realized the labor shortage that exists in trucking. But one more solar statistic before we go is that trucking, look, it's an $800 billion industry, heading towards a $1.2 trillion industry. By 2027, there'll be a $2 trillion industry, right? E-commerce is going to what? 37% year over year, meaning people is not going to your traditional shops anymore. Everybody's ordering online. So that creates more of a demand for delivery goods. So I think this is where, whether it's Gen Z or millennials, I think this is where we need to start looking because all of us are part of supply chain. 74% of everything we touch are moved by trucks, right? So this is why I tell people logistics is a good business to get in. It's recession proof. And not only that, imagine you making money whenever your friend go into the supermarket. Your friend buy furniture. If you're in trucking, trust me, you're making money on it. So I think it's important to understand that since we are consumers in trucking, it's also important to build businesses so we can reap those benefits. Although I say it's an $800 billion industry, 40% of the workforce are minorities. So yeah, so minorities are working in that space, but there is no ownership. So I think that's another thing that we're looking to change from that 40% workforce to at least 50% ownership in this $800 billion industry.
And I feel as if, you will be the person to lead that charge, my brother, sincerely.
Absolutely.
And thank you again so much for joining me this evening. Like I said, we hope to see you again.
Yes, I look forward to it. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. Anything I can do, anyhow I can help. Anybody, if you go on my LinkedIn, if you see any other entrepreneurs that you want to connect with, that you would like to invite in your podcast, just let me know. I'll make the intro because I think, again, this right here is important. This is what our people need to see as opposed to all this twerking, all this gangbanging. Like, it needs to stop, man. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about that community, although I almost lost my life beyond it. But I love us, man. I believe that, we can change this. We can change our biology and we can change our trajectory. So thank you again.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Man, if you don't know, you won't know, you guys. That was Pierre Laguerre. You guys definitely check him out. I'm absolutely honored to be able to talk to him, and have that brother sit across from me. This is a frank conversation. If you enjoy what I do, $Moon, 60% goes to a charity or nonprofit named on the show, and 40% goes to making this the best thing you've ever seen. Trying to make sure that I get back into doing this in person. So if you guys know of any guests in the DMV area that would like for an in-person interview, let me know. If, in fact, you know any guests that are just not in the DMV area, then guess what? Let me know, too, because I would love to interview them as well. A big shout-out to our sponsor, again, Area Justice. And, yeah, this is great. If you loved it, you guys, make sure you guys share, comment. Definitely go subscribe to the YouTube, which is, in fact, the EMC. All right. I'm Moon, and I'm not doing it unless it's fun and it helps people. Peace. Purchase my book, Purple Mike Wants a Bike, at Amazon.com. You can find it there. Just type in Purple Mike, type in Moon, and it'll pop up. If you guys want to follow me, no, not even if, go follow me at Moon_ on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Moon, and I'm not doing it unless it's fun and it helps people.